In what I think is a pretty shocking turn of events, xAI has bought X, and Elon Musk, I believe, had a PR team write a post about it, which also seems to be a first in history. So let's take a look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All coming to you from Chattanooga, Tennessee, where the Chattanooga Charge event is happening today. If you are joining us, I will see you very, very shortly because I'm going to do this real quick and then go there. You'll notice my voice. I was at the XYZ bar last night, which was fun, but a lot of talking and everything, so my voice is kind of rough. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into this announcement and then let's talk about it a little bit. So I'm going to try to read this all the way through without stopping. It definitely raised some red flags as I read this over originally. Elon Musk posted, xAI has acquired X in an all-stock transaction, so no cash. The combination values xAI at $80 billion and X at $33 billion, and this is interesting information, $45 billion for the valuation of X, less the $12 billion of debt that they have. So that's the interesting bit of information. Since its founding 2 years ago, xAI has rapidly become one of the leading AI labs in the world, building models and data centers at unprecedented speed and scale. X is the digital town square where more than 600 million active users go to find the real-time source of ground truth, and in the last 2 years has been transformed into one of the most efficient companies in the world, positioning it to deliver scalable future growth. xAI and X's futures are intertwined. Today, we officially take the step to combine the data, models, compute, distribution, and talent. This combination will unlock immense potential by blending xAI's advanced AI capabilities and expertise with X's massive reach. The combined company will deliver smarter, more meaningful experiences to billions of people while staying true to our core mission of seeking truth and advancing knowledge. This will allow us to build a platform that doesn't just reflect the world but actively accelerates human progress. I would like to recognize the hardcore dedication of everyone at xAI and X that has brought us to this point. This is just the beginning. Thank you for your continued partnership and support. And as you might expect, there were some fun reactions. I'll just note James Stevenson's, sadly 2 programmer roles were made redundant by the merger. And as I said in my reply, Ligma and Johnson will be missed. You know, if you don't know that meme, then whatever. It has to do with the original Twitter xAI thing. So anyway, very, very funny. And then more to the point here, James the Cat wrote, "Did Grok write this?" And I said, that was indeed the most corporate speak thing I've ever seen Elon post. Likely not even him. And this is the part of Elon's post that I think was not written by Elon. Maybe Grok, maybe an actual PR team or something like that. More than likely Grok, just, you know, with standard press release kind of stuff. But this is, I've written this before because I've consulted with companies where I kind of ghost wrote these official announcements and stuff. And if they just had the word thrilled, if he had thrilled in here, that xAI is thrilled to be working with X or something like that, I would know guaranteed that it was a press team that had done this. Anyway, this very much doesn't sound like Elon, and it's actually rather a surprise to hear this. I was actually just talking to Misinformation, and she was like, that sounds really, really corporate. And she said, wouldn't Elon have just said something like funding secured? And I was like, ooh, ouch. That probably is what he would have originally said a few years back. You know, the famous funding secured that led to the SEC suing him, and a big domino effect from that. So maybe he actually kind of learned his lesson over time and decided to make it very, very corporate speak, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, this is like the least Elon thing I have probably ever seen him post in my life. So that's very interesting that that's actually snuck in there. But when he gets down here to the bottom, I'd like to recognize the hardcore dedication of everyone at xAI and X that has brought us to the point. This is just the beginning. Yeah, that sounds more like Elon. So I feel like the middle part of it was written by corporate speak. Whether it was Grok doing corporate speak or whether it was Elon having an actual press person, I guess the former. But anyway, the last 2 sentences seem true Elon. The rest of it definitely doesn't. So the interesting part about all of this to me is that I kind of thought they were already working together so intimately that there was no need for this. And that, of course, made me wonder about the fact that X has so much debt. They're burdened with $12 billion in debt. That is no small amount of debt. You know, that's the kind of thing that makes any company worried, especially one that's only valued in, you know, the $40 billion range. That is a high debt to valuation percentage. And so since Grok likely wrote the press release in the first place, I asked it to analyze the press release and asked it to present me a few advantages and disadvantages of the merger for each company. So it gives an analysis of the press release, which I don't think is particularly useful because it's just an analysis of the press release. We already read it. But let's get right to the advantages and disadvantages. So first of all, for xAI, which obviously is the big papa company at this point, right? It's valued at a lot. It's growing rapidly. It's been able to do really pretty miraculous stuff in terms of building data centers out really, really quickly, catching up. I mean, Grok is a frontier model at this point, and it's able to do really amazing stuff. And of course, the previous relationship with X, which was already very intimate, gave them access to a lot of knowledge that X has. So anyway, some advantages that Grok said: access to vast data resources, which is very, very true. And they are also real time, right? So you get real time data sources on X. That is a huge thing, and almost definitely that is going to be walled off more and more and more over time, so that nobody else gets access to that data, because now that they're the same company, they don't even have to go outside the company. So they don't have to worry about any sort of look or optics of competition or anything where xAI is getting access to stuff that other companies aren't. And the other companies can go like, hey, we need access to this too. We should be able to at least pay for it. Now, if they're the same company, that of course is the biggest advantage for xAI, is they get this treasure trove of real-time data. And because they're the same company now, they don't have any worries about some sort of conflict of interest or anything like that. They can just access that data and nobody else has access to it. Next up, we get expanded distribution platform. Integrating xAI's AI tools into X provides a ready-made distribution channel, allowing products like Grok to reach a massive audience instantly, boosting adoption and visibility. I don't know. I mean, Grok is right over there on the side. It's right over here at the edge of the screen right there, right? So it's already completely built in. So I don't know that there is any major shift in the ability of X to reach more people, because it was already so well integrated into xAI. Don't know if I agree with that, but anyway, that's a supposed advantage. And then there is a strategic synergy with Musk's vision. The merger aligns with Musk's goal of accelerating human progress, positioning xAI as a key player in a combined ecosystem that could influence both technology and social discourse. Definitely influence technology and social discourse. There is the counter argument that it has become a kind of right-wing echo chamber, which, there's some validity to that. There is a lot more leaning to the right than there used to be. Obviously, Twitter used to be extremely left-leaning and is now, I believe, shifted over to be very extremely right-leaning. Hopefully it will find a middle path and actually really, really work towards the truth. But right now, I feel like the pendulum has swung from one side way too far over to the other side way too far over. Now let's turn to the disadvantages. There is a debt burden. This is an obvious, huge disadvantage. xAI inherits X's $12 billion debt, which puts them in a much worse condition than they used to be. And that could strain its financial resources and divert funds from AI research and development to debt servicing. So that is very, very true. There is also a dilution of focus. That's an interesting disadvantage. I hadn't thought about that, but very, very true. Managing a social media platform alongside its core AI mission might stretch xAI's operational focus, potentially slowing innovation in its primary domain. So that is a very good, thank you, Grok. That's something I hadn't thought about, but that's actually a very, very good point. Then there are regulatory risks, and that is interesting. Combining a high-profile AI firm with a controversial social media entity could attract increased scrutiny from regulators, especially regarding data privacy and AI ethics. So that is an interesting point. The counterpoint to that is that who's in charge of the government in the US right now. I'll just leave it at that. So that is a counterpoint to that potential disadvantage. Then we get to the advantages and disadvantages for X. Advantages are enhanced user experience. X benefits from xAI's advanced AI capabilities, potentially improving features like content recommendations, moderation, and personalized feeds, making the platform more engaging. I would say they're probably already integrating that stuff. So these are enhancements, but I believe they probably would have happened already. So I don't think that's a major advantage for X. This is the big one, and this one has to do with people who've already invested in X. I think they're going to be extremely happy about this, and that is a valuation boost. The merger ties X to xAI's higher $80 billion valuation, potentially stabilizing or increasing its perceived worth after a turbulent period post Musk's 2022 acquisition, despite the $33 billion net valuation. And here's the thing, apparently people who had invested in X get a 25% rollover stake in xAI. That is a huge, huge benefit to those folks who invested in X. So I think that is the major advantage that's going on right here. You're shifting a lot of the debt burden to a more healthy company, to the potential detriment of that more healthy company. But what you're doing is you're really, really paying off the investors who had invested early in X and have been basically getting no return out of it at all. In fact, a debt instead of, an advancement. And then the third advantage is an innovation edge, which is access to xAI's technology could differentiate X from competitors, positioning it as a leader in AI-driven social media and supporting Musk's everything app ambition, and that is very, very true. So that is a big advantage to X and for the folks that use X, like us users. So the first and third of the advantages are for users. The middle one is much more for investors. Then we get to disadvantages, and the first disadvantage is the similar one to the xAI one, which is operational complexity. Integrating xAI's tech and talent could complicate X's operations, especially given its recent focus on efficiency, potentially disrupting its streamlined structure. Next, we get privacy concerns, and this is something I wouldn't have thought of myself, but leveraging X's user data for xAI's models might raise privacy concerns, risking user trust and advertiser confidence at a time when X is regaining brand support. So that is interesting. There might be some pullback from advertisers and others saying like, yo, we don't want to be involved in something where basically everything I post, everything you post, everything everybody else posts on X can be utilized for training. I personally have already accepted that everything I post on the internet is being used for that. I know that Google and Gemini are training on my YouTube videos because if I ask Gemini in particular ways, it reproduces stuff that quite obviously came from me. So, so that's happening already, I guess. I don't particularly care, but I could see other people caring, but especially corporations caring about that, and that could affect the advertising revenue that X gets, which is the lion's share of its lifeblood. And then the final disadvantage is lower valuation perception, which is despite the strategic merger, X's $33 billion valuation, which is down from the original $44 billion, might signal a loss in standalone value, potentially unsettling existing investors. And again, I think they're going to be okay because they've got a stake in xAI now, and I think that's going to make them perfectly happy. But I'm not an investor at that level, so what do I know about large-scale investing? Maybe they will be concerned about that. But anyway, that's the advantages and disadvantages that Grok and I have come up with for this merger. It sounds from Elon's post like this is a done deal, but I would imagine that there are regulatory hurdles that you have to go through for a merger this large. But anyway, maybe they've already done those things. Maybe Elon is just projecting a sense of optimism like it's going to happen. I mean, these are two very, very different companies. One's in the AI space, one's in the social media space, and they already were working so closely together. So maybe it is not a thing, and maybe it won't be an issue, but I would have to think there would at least be some look at this, at least a sort of pro forma look to make sure that it was all on the up and up, that merger, but maybe that's already been done. Anyway, that's sort of beyond my knowledge base, so I'm not exactly sure how that works. But more to the point, I think that there are some definite advantages to both X and xAI to doing this merger officially, but they've already been working together so tightly that this seems to mostly be an advantage to X's investors more than anything else. Most of the other advantages for both companies were already there because they were working together anyway. The disadvantages, however, are pretty significant to both companies, particularly to xAI, because xAI has a very high valuation and has really good mind share from the investors and from the community. And this could potentially kind of derail that mind share, that trust in xAI's mission and their focus and their valuation, all of that stuff. And so I could see xAI taking a major hit in its valuation post this merger. And if I was an investor in xAI, I'm not, because I don't really have access to investing in that, I could see being pretty darn upset about this merger. But from a consumer point of view, like me and most of you out there, I don't think this is going to make major differences. The two companies were already so intertwined. It's probably just going to be more of the same. This is more of an investor sort of shuffling things around rather than any real differentiation in the way that these two entities are going to operate, at least in my opinion. Definitely let me know in the comments what you think about all of this. And while you're down there, if you don't mind liking the video, it really helps other people to find it. And if you want more of this kind of content and other stuff about tech and AI, please consider subscribing. And in the meantime, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.